Hello friends, my name is Marina and this is Rapunzel Fiber Arts. Now, for the last couple weeks, any day that's been nice outside, where the sun's out and it's warm enough that I'm not freezing my fingers off when I'm out there for more than 20 minutes, I've been going out and enjoying that sun. It really helps with the seasonal depression, and letting my dog sniff, and I've also been picking locks. Not breaking into anything, but pulling apart sheep's wool to remove VM, second cuts, short cuts, anything undesirable in a finished bat or yarn. So this is what I've been working with. It's a Finn fleece, also called Finnish or Finnish landrace. It is local to me here in Massachusetts. This was another one of my trade fleeces where through a Facebook group I got in touch with the person who had this fleece and wanted it spun. She sent it to me and I spun up half of it for her years back at this point. And it's just been waiting in my stash for the second half of it for my own personal use. To be processed and made into yarn. Now I remember I really liked the yarn that I made from this fleece, so I'm not entirely sure why it's been sitting in my stash for so long, but I'm getting to it, which is great. So I have about 6 ounces here that still need to be picked open. Picking locks is a little bit of a messy process, which is why I've been doing it outside. But pretty much what you do is you take your wool, just a small handful, and you just kind of destroy the lock structure a little bit. You want it to be a little airier, doesn't have that distinct curl of a lock. These aren't very distinct curls, so that might not be the best example, but you can see it has a tip and it has a butt end, and you don't really want that when you go to carding. So all I do is I just kind of draft apart the fibers, remove any shortcuts or pieces of VM or vegetable matter, and I will just go ahead, toss those in the trash. And again, that leaves me with an airy, easier to process product. If I put locks like this through my drum carder, it struggles to manage them. The VM and shortcuts just get incorporated in with everything else. Whereas when I go and pick apart the locks, remove that VM, I have a much nicer thing to spin from once it's processed into spinning fiber in the form of, in this case, a bat, which is what I'm going to be doing today. I have this enormous bag of wool. It's very airy. I'm not entirely sure how much this weighs. I will get a weight before I start carding and put it up on the screen right here. But I have this huge bag of fiber, and the next step is going to be getting it put on the drum carder. So again, these are just picked open locks, nice and airy and ready to be processed on that carding cloth. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my drum carder, which is currently right there, and I'm going to put it on my desk, get the camera set up so you can see what I'm doing, and then we're going to go ahead and start carding up some bats. I think I'm going to do 1 ounce bats. That's what I typically do when I card on this drum carder. It can take more than that, but I like working from a pretty airy fiber prep. So loading more fiber on is just going to make it denser, so you have more pre-drafting that you have to do before you can get to spinning. Whereas if I just make a 1 ounce bat, it's already essentially pre-drafted. So I'm going to go ahead and get that all set up to go, and then we'll do some carding. All right, friends, so here you can see I am working with that carder that I showed you before, just giving those locks one more pick open, picking the locks, and then loading them onto my carder. I'm loading them on very thinly, so the carder isn't taking up too much fiber at once, and this just enables it to more successfully card the fiber and make it a little bit more prepared for spinning. Now, I do discover after doing 2 passes, so the first pass and then one additional pass on this carder, I went ahead and did some sample spinning and was not really happy with the spinning product that I was working with. It was a little bit more lumpy than I tend to like, and I was spinning fairly fine, so it was pretty noticeable as well. So what I end up doing after I do 2 passes on this Louette brand drum carder, which has a fairly coarse carding cloth, which is the cloth that is doing the carding on these 2 drums. It has a relatively coarse carding cloth, I think about 72 tines per inch. Whereas my other drum carder, which is from a brand called Fancy Kitty, has a little bit of a finer carding cloth and makes a little bit smoother of a spinning product when I'm working with a finer fleece. So you will see momentarily this drum carder switches from one to another, and then I am loading on fiber for a 3rd pass on this finer carder. I am making these bats slightly smaller. They're about 1/2 ounce, not a full ounce, and that's because there's not as much carding cloth on this drum. It takes up less space because the diameter of the drum is smaller. So although it makes a very nice smooth bat, they are smaller bats. And that's just a little bit more processing, but it makes it worth it in the long run because the spinning product, or the spinning fiber that I'm working with when it comes off of this carder is much nicer than when it comes off the other carder in terms of this fleece. Now it varies fleece to fleece. If I'm working with a coarser fleece, I tend to like to work with the Louette or the first drum carder that we saw in this video. But when I'm doing finer fleeces, this Fancy Kitty drum carder is what I prefer to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and continue carding this fleece exclusively on the Fancy Kitty drum carder, and that will be how I finish processing this fleece. Like I said, I still have about 30 ounces to go, so quite a bit to work with, but I'm enjoying spinning it, and I'll show you what I'm spinning in just a couple minutes. So I'm just finishing this last couple passes on this bat, or the last couple bits of this bat, loading them onto the carder, and then I will show you what this fiber looks like all carded up and in a bin. There's only about 3 or 4 ounces in this bin, but because the bats are so light and airy, you can see how light and airy it's full. All right, friends. So I went ahead and spun up that whole bin off camera. It was only about 4 ounces, so it's only about half of one of my Hanson bobbins, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. Like I said in the voiceover, the carding that I did on my Louette or coarser drum carder wasn't quite enough on this finer fleece, so I went ahead and pulled out my Fancy Kitten drum carder, which is the name of the carder. The brand is Fancy Kitty. And I have a kitten model, which is adorable, but that's a little tangent. The point is that I needed a little bit of a finer carding cloth with more TPI or tines per inch, and that's just the number of tines in a square inch that are poking out of the carding cloth. Hopefully that makes sense. I had to use my finer carding cloth to make the fiber a little bit nicer prepped for spinning, but once I did that, it was really nice. There were a couple spots where the fibers were a little bit tangled, I think maybe from the original carding process. There was some sproing back from over carding or carding with too coarse of a cloth. That's just when the fibers kind of sproing back on each other and get tangled, and it creates a little nip in the wool. So there are a couple of those. I think hopefully if I card originally, like do the whole process on the fancy kitten drum carder, that I won't have that issue. I'm not positive about that, but hopefully it won't continue to happen. If it does, it's not the end of the world. It's a carded prep, not a combed prep, and that's kind of the nature of carded preps, is that you have a little bit more texture and you have a little bit more inconsistency in your finished yarn. Just generally speaking, compared to combing, that is the case because you're incorporating all of the fibers. You're not removing short bits or shorter bits. Like I remove VM and shortcuts in the picking process, but there's still some inconsistency in what fiber is in the bat as opposed to in some combed top. So anyway, I'm going to keep carrying on with that process, keep carding and spinning and churning out yarn from this fleece. I have a couple other projects on my radar because I got some more fiber back from Alchemy Fiber Mill. If you want to learn more about them, I have a recent video that was pretty fun to make about their facility and what I had processed there. So I have a really, really nice Corriedale fleece that I had them process, and I'm spinning it long draw. I'm going to make a video about that too, but that's kind of taking a lot of my focus away from this Finn project, but I will get back to it. It won't be on hiatus for too long. It'll be one of my, I like to have like a commercial prep and then a prep that I've done project going simultaneously so I can switch it up a little bit. So I will continue working on both of those and keep you all updated. But yeah, I think that about wraps up today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed watching the creation of this yarn. I think it turned out pretty good. I'm excited about it. I know it's maybe not the best finished product to show you compared to a finished skein, but it is what it is. This is where the video is at, but I wanted to get it finished so I could get it out to you guys. So anyway, that's all for today. If you liked this video, feel free to like, comment, or subscribe to let me know that you enjoyed it and want to see more like it. And I will see you in the next upcoming video. Take care, friends. Bye.